Good evening. Welcome to California Today. I'm Liang Zhang. Here is a preview of some of today's stories. A San Francisco pizza shop recently apologized and fired an employee accused of denying entry to a group of police officers. The shop says the worker was a new trainee. Following the string of mass shootings in the state, the governor was criticized for his comments on the Second Amendment. And the former FBI agent offered his perspectives on the cause of such horrific incidents and how to prevent them. California decided to opt out of a century-old pact on water distribution from the Colorado River. The move comes after the federal government set a deadline for negotiating reductions or possibly face mandatory cutbacks. A San Francisco pizza shop has fired an employee accused of telling police officers that they aren't welcome in the business. The shop says the worker was a trainee on just his third day. The San Francisco Police Union posted on social media that several officers went into Pizza Squared when they were met with the icy greeting. The union president told Fox that officers that dined there in the past never had a problem. The restaurant said on social media that it apologized to the union and fired the employee at the end of the day once they discovered what happened. They also said they told the employee that they didn't share his views and that he was out of line. The National Rifle Association is criticizing California Governor Gavin Newsom for his remarks on the Second Amendment. The remarks came shortly after the January 24th Monterey Park mass shooting.
Governor Gavin Newsom has been criticized by the National Rifle Association, or NRA, for claiming that the Second Amendment is becoming a, quote, suicide pact, while he was surrounded by what appeared to be at least 4 armed security guards. Newsom made the comments during an interview with CBS News in the Los Angeles suburb of Monterey Park, following 2 mass shootings within the state, just days of each other. Amy Hunter, the NRA's director for media relations, told Fox News, quote, Governor Gavin Newsom made the statement while flanked by at least 4 armed guards. That is the definition of hypocrisy. But the governor added that he has no ideological opposition against people who reasonably and responsibly own guns, get background checks, are trained on how to use them, and make sure they're locked away from children. Newsom also noted that around 1,200 people were unable to buy guns last year in California, which has some of the most stringent gun laws in the country. According to advocacy groups Everytown for Gun Safety and the Giffords Law Center, California is the top state for gun safety in the United States. The state has banned the sale of military-style weapons, has mandatory waiting periods and background checks for the purchase of firearms. Additionally, red flag laws have been passed that allow the court, at the request of family members of authorities, to confiscate guns from people deemed to pose a danger to themselves or others.
Speaking of guns and the recent string of shootings in the state, Governor Gavin Newsom and state leaders are set to announce more gun control laws. Earlier today, NTD anchor Kevin Hogan spoke to a former FBI operator to hear more about the national scale of these horrific incidents. The expert shared his perspectives on what is and is not the cause, prevention, and what to do in these situations. Let's take a look at their conversation.
Joining us now to discuss is former FBI Special Agent Greg Schaefer. Greg served as an operator on the FBI's elite hostage rescue team. He's internationally recognized as one of the leading experts and authorities on the phenomenon of active shooter events and domestic terrorism prevention. It's a pleasure speaking with you, Greg.
Thanks for having me this morning.
The U.S. has seen a rise in mass shootings recently, with at least 39 of them in January, with over 60 people killed. What do you think is contributing to this rise, and what can be done about it?
The percentage of firearms in households in America really has not changed that much in the last 30 years, but the rise in violence has. So we need to take a hard look at what changed in our society 30 years ago to today that's causing this increase in violence. This is a multifaceted problem with multifaceted answers. Some of the answers include better mental health care. Some of the answers include, two parents, having a parent stay at home Life has gotten so expensive now that both parents have to go to work, and there's nobody to watch the kids and teach them what's right and what's wrong. We have lack of people going to church anymore. We have our kids being treated with ADHD medication that has been proven to be have side effects of depression and suicidal thoughts.
And Greg, there are measures for after a shooting occurs, but what about prevention? In terms of society, what are the actions by the government or education that can be put forth to protect citizens from these tragedies?
Well, we got to remember that preventing these acts of violence is not the sole responsibility of law enforcement. It is a societal problem where the government, education, mental health, and private entities need to get involved. We have cameras that have AI that can recognize when an individual pulls a weapon out of the trunk of his car in a parking lot or pulls a weapon out of a school locker. We have cameras that can help identify where that weapon is and instantaneously notify the authorities or notify the school or whatever the business or whatever the case is. We have shot detection technology that can pinpoint exactly where that shot occurred so that when police do respond, they know exactly where to go. We have facial recognition. So if you have an incident where there was a high threat termination at a corporation, that face can be put into the facial recognition system. So if that person comes back on campus, comes back on property, it can again notify the authorities, notify the people at that building that they need to lock down. So, we have movable walls that are ballistic. They've been moved in front of a door in a school. So the technology is out there to help prevent and stop this. But right now we're still sold on focusing on the response. And let's keep in mind, of these active shooter events, only 50% of the events are stopped by police officers. It's important for them to be trained in how to respond and to do it timely, effectively, and with great tactics. But let's not focus on what happens after the shot's being fired. Let's focus on prevention, where we take care of business and prevent these things happening before they happen.
And Greg, it's good that you outlined some of the applications like AI, facial recognition that can be used to prevent these. Now, I want to go back to this run, hide, fight. For decades, the FBI has given civilians guidance on what to do if they find themselves in an active shooter situation, and that is this method. And that's a last resort to fight the shooter. Now, security experts say that might be outdated. Could confronting the gunman be a better option, like the actions of Brandon Say in Monterey Park, California?
Well, hiding is definitely not the option. The average distance that an active shooter shoots and kills his victims is less than 5 feet. So if you're hiding behind a church pew, hiding underneath your desk or behind the cash register, all you do is make yourself an easy target. So if you can't run to avoid the shooter, look for a place that you can hard point and prevent him from entering into the area you're at, but be prepared to fight. Look for improvised weapons, but you have to have the right mindset in order to confront and actually attack and fight off this shooter.
It really is troubling that we would have to resort to that kind of resourcefulness in order to deal with these situations. But nonetheless, former FBI Special Agent Greg Schaefer, it is great having your analysis.
Thank you very much for having me.
Even with all the rain California got, it's still not enough to quench the state's thirst in the long run. Recently, the state decided to opt out from a century-old pact among 7 states to distribute water from a common source.
The Colorado River, a stream that provides drinking water to 40 million people in 7 states, is drying up. California, Colorado, New Mexico, Utah, Wyoming, Nevada, and Arizona operate under a 100-year-old compact to distribute water from the river, but the agreement has been increasingly strained from droughts. At the end of January, California split from the other 6 when faced with a U.S. government deadline to negotiate their own reductions or possibly face mandatory cutbacks enforced by the federal government.
What happened today was a step forward. 6 of the 7 basin states are playing catch-up to reduce water use from the Colorado River, which is absolutely critically needed.
A century ago, the agreement assumed the river would provide 20 million acre-feet of water each year. The river's actual flow in the past 2 decades has averaged 12.5 million acre-feet, leaving state water managers with more rights on paper than water that exists in the river. California receives the largest allotment. Its $50 billion agricultural industry continues to consume 80% of the state's supply. Many experts see the state's decision to sit out the agreement is increasing the chances of the water fight ending up in the nation's highest courts.
we have a situation where some of the water rights holders in California are saying we're not willing to give up more water, and we think we have legal rights, and we're willing to go to court if we have to. And that's not a solution here, and there's not enough time to litigate these issues. So much is at stake.
According to Hayes, drastic conservation will be needed to protect dwindling reservoirs from overuse.
For the federal government to change its operating guidelines for the Colorado River, they have to go through a process, an environmental impact review process. And that's what they're going through right now. And they want to have that done by the summer so that they can implement some changes, later in 2023 or 2024. And so time is not on our side. Something is going to have to give. And as I look at the letter that was sent, the 6 states that signed it, and I know California recognizes the reality, all recognize that we have to change the operating procedures for the Colorado River, the deliveries. The hard part is, can you get to agreement across these diverse states and interests such as farming and cities and the like?
Since late December, 7 atmospheric rivers have dumped up to 30 inches of rain in California, but virtually none of the storms reached the Colorado River basin. Even with more atmospheric rivers in the immediate forecast, the state cannot solve its long-term water crisis without major infrastructure investments to capture more stormwater, restore floodplains, and recycle wastewater.
We are going to take a short break, but here's a look at what we got for you when we come back. Orange County community members held a vigil for Public Defender Elliot Blair. His wife and family say they believe his death might not have been an accident. Reports say California Representative Maxine Waters has continued to transfer campaign money to her daughter. That was reportedly to keep her endorsement mailer operation afloat. And the annual wintering monarch butterflies are back. Researchers say this year's population shows a promising increase in numbers. That and more on California Today. Welcome back to California Today. I'm your host, Liang Zhang. The community in Orange came together last week to pay their respects to the life of Public Defender Elliot Blair. Blair's wife and family have made public statements that his death might not have been an accident.
Mourners gathered on January 26 at Plaza Square Park in Orange, California to pay their respects to Public Defender Elliot Blair. In attendance were members of the community along with elected officials, friends, and loved ones. One of the public defenders present was Martin Schwartz, who remembered Blair saying Elliot was always driven by and motivated by a deep desire to help people. A representative for Congressman Lou Correa read a statement offering his support. It read in part, Elliot was a devout public servant and a relentless litigator. Under his eye, no stone was ever left unturned, and no Californian, no matter who they were or how much money they had, was ever left behind. Blair and his wife were celebrating their first wedding anniversary on January 14th when he was found dead. The official reports from Mexico have stated Blair fell from a balcony while intoxicated, but his wife and family questioned the cause of his death, as they have noticed discrepancies in official reports. Blair's body arrived in Orange County on January 30th. Blair's wife and family say they will conduct their own autopsy. Blair was only 33 years old and had been a public defender for the county since 2017.
Fox News is reporting that California Democratic Representative Maxine Waters has continued a practice of transferring campaign cash to her daughter. This to run a profitable operation during the 2022 election cycle. NTD's Daniel Monahan has the story.
Daughter Karen Waters allegedly received over $190,000 from her mother's campaign. It was reportedly to keep her endorsement mailer operation afloat between January 2021 and December 2022. The system works by outside campaigns paying Waters' campaign to appear on the endorsement mailers. Those are then sent out to constituents in the Los Angeles area. The practice is reportedly unusual at the federal level. However, Fox News reports that endorsement mailers, also called slate mailers, are commonplace in her home state of California. Critics say the practice of one campaign paying another for support in an election is misleading. Waters received permission to use the system from the Federal Election Commission in 2004. Since that time, Fox reported that Karen Waters received over $1 million in payments from her mother's campaign. The practice has also been lucrative for Waters' campaign. Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign sent over $30,000 to Waters for endorsement mailer placement in 2010 when seeking the California Attorney General's spot. Then in 2016, Harris paid around $30,000 more to appear again while running for the U.S. Senate. Meanwhile, Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom reportedly paid Waters $45,000 while running for lieutenant governor in 2010, and former Senator Barbara Boxer spent a combined $33,000 in 2010 and 2018 on the mailers. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Good news for butterfly enthusiasts. Researchers say the number of monarch butterflies have increased in numbers recently, but is still low compared to 40 years ago.
The population of western monarch butterflies wintering along the California coast has rebounded for a second year in a row after a steep drop in 2020. But researchers say it is still well below what it used to be. Volunteers who visited sites in California and Arizona around Thanksgiving tallied more than 330,000 butterflies, the highest number of these insects counted in the last 6 years. It was a promising rebound after the annual winter count in 2020 recorded fewer than 2,000 butterflies. In 2021, the number recorded was 247,000.
Yeah, I think we can all celebrate, and this is really exciting. We were all so relieved last year when we hit about 250,000 butterflies. So to see that number tick up even more, a little bit modestly this year, is really a good sign that we've got, I think, a second chance.
Pelton said it's not clear why the population has rebounded, but one explanation could be that eastern monarch butterflies, which tend to spend the winter in Mexico, could be mixing with their western counterparts.
So some of the wild swings we've seen that have felt like kind of out of the realm of believability in terms of like what 2,000 butterflies could possibly reproduce in a few generations, like we saw from the year 2000 with 2,000 butterflies to 2021, where we saw them leap back up to 250,000. You know, some of that kind of leakage could be occurring. And I don't think we fully understand the system enough to say what it is. But I think one thing we know it's not is that like all is well, or that we all made human actions that magically made it all better.
Trained volunteers conduct the Western Monarch count every year around the Thanksgiving holiday. It dates back to 1997 and has observed a loss of more than 95% since the 1980s, when monarchs numbered in the millions. Scientists say the butterflies are at critically low levels in western states because of destruction to their milkweed habitat along their migratory route. This is as housing expands into their territory and use of pesticides and herbicides increases. The group normally also conducts a second count after the new year. This year's results will be announced in February and shed light on how much winter storms impacted the butterflies.
So because the storms were so intense and so back-to-back this year, it seems reasonable to assume that there might be increased mortality this winter, leading to a smaller population that'll kick off the breeding season this next spring, summer.
Howard said the follow-up New Year's counts usually show a 30 to 50% decline in butterflies from the Thanksgiving count. Western monarch butterflies head south from the Pacific Northwest to California each winter, returning to the same places and even the same trees where they cluster to keep warm. The monarchs breed multiple generations along the way for thousands of miles before reaching California, where they generally arrive at the beginning of November. Once warmer weather arrives in March, they spread east of California.
Now to NTD's Tyler Castile for today's Sports Roundup.
Welcome everyone. I'm Tyler Castillo and I'm taking you through the California Today Sports Roundup.
LeBron James moved closer to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's NBA scoring record and gained 2 spots on the all-time assists list Tuesday night when the Los Angeles Lakers superstar posted his first triple-double of the season to spark an overtime win over the host New York Knicks. Dennis Schroeder hit the tie-breaking three-pointer with 3 minutes left in overtime to start a decisive 7-0 run by the Lakers, who snapped a 2-game losing streak. Jalen Brunson scored a game-high 37 points for the Knicks, who have lost 2 straight and 6 of 8. LeBron James, who missed Los Angeles' Monday defeat to the Brooklyn Nets with a sore left ankle and left foot, finished with 28 points, 11 assists, and 10 rebounds. He is now 89 points shy of breaking Abdul-Jabbar's record. LeBron James' 8th and 9th assists of the game vaulted himself past Mark Jackson and Steve Nash into 4th place on the all-time list. LeBron James ended the night at 10,338. Lakers 129, Knicks 123. Kawhi Leonard scored a game-high 33 points. Norman Powell added 27, and Paul George notched a 16-point, 10-rebound double-double as Los Angeles edged Chicago. Los Angeles capitalized on 20 Chicago turnovers to improve to 2-1 on a 6-game road trip and win for the 6th time in 7 games. Ivica Zubac also had a double-double, contributing 14 points and 12 rebounds. DeMar DeRozan, who scored 20 points as one of the 6 Bulls in double figures, had a career-high 8 turnovers. Clippers 108, Bulls 103. Sebastian Aho scored on a power play with 53 seconds left in overtime as the Carolina Hurricanes completed a rally from 3 goals down to defeat the Los Angeles Kings on Tuesday night in North Carolina. After the Kings outscored the hosts 4-0 in the second period, Teuvo Teravainen tied it with 7:29 remaining. The Hurricanes earned their 6th straight win while extending their point streak to 9 games. The Kings appeared to take control in the second period. Instead, they wrapped up January with a 7-5-1 record. Adrian Kempe scored Los Angeles' first and third goals. Anze Kopitar added a goal and 2 assists. Kevin Fiala also scored, and Drew Doughty logged 2 assists for his 600 points in his career. Phoenix Copley stopped 25 shots. Hurricanes 5, Kings 4.
And thank you for tuning in for the Sports Roundup for today.
That's all we've got for you tonight. We'd like you to join us again on California Today every weekday at 8:30 p.m. Make sure to check out our broadcasts on our California Today webpage. You can find it at ntd.com/California-today. You can also find all of our top latest clips there, ready to share with friends and family. Send us a message on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, or through our email, california.today@ntd.com. I'm Lang Zhang. Have a wonderful evening.